It never happens in one moment. People don't vanish like they were never there. It starts quietly, subtle, almost invisible. A delayed reply, a shorter conversation, a laugh that doesn't sound the same, a warmth that feels slightly colder, and before you know it, the person you once knew, the one who texted good morning first, the one who remembered the details, the one who made time even on busy days, is no longer the same. Today's story explores why people disconnect slowly, what signs we ignore, and what it really means when someone drifts away without saying a word. This isn't just analysis. This is a journey, maybe even your story. Chapter 1. Disconnection begins in silence. The slow disconnection between two people always begins in silence. Not the kind that follows an argument, but the kind that appears for no reason. This silence doesn't shout, doesn't warn, doesn't explain. It simply grows, like a soft fog covering the familiar paths between two hearts. At first, the changes are subtle. Shorter replies, delayed reactions, less interest, less warmth. Human beings are intuitive creatures. We feel emotional shifts before we understand them. The heart detects tone before the mind detects words. This is why the first stage of slow disconnection hurts gently, not enough to break you, but enough to make you restless. Lao Tzu once wrote, "Silence is a great source of strength." But in relationships, silence is often the first sign that strength is fading. You notice the disconnect. You adjust your expectations. You try to rationalize it. You tell yourself they're busy, tired, distracted. But in truth, something much deeper is happening. The emotional frequency you once shared is no longer aligned. This chapter sets the foundation, because slow disconnection rarely begins with conflict. It begins with a shift in energy, attention, and presence. And most people ignore these early signs, hoping the silence will pass, but silence rarely passes on its own. It expands. Chapter 2. When effort stops feeling natural. The second stage of slow disconnection occurs when effort stops flowing effortlessly. In healthy connections, effort feels natural. We respond quickly, listen actively, show interest genuinely. But during the slow fade, one person's effort begins to feel heavier, while the other's begins to feel optional. Not wrong, not absent, just lighter. This imbalance creates an emotional echo, one heart calling, the other replying faintly. Over time, the echo gets weaker. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." But emotional disconnection proves that even if we control our reactions, we cannot control someone's diminishing interest. During this stage, conversations lose depth, connection loses rhythm, warmth loses consistency, presence loses meaning. One side keeps trying because the connection still matters. The other tries less because it matters differently now. This is the heartbreaking truth of slow disconnection. No one announces it, no one declares it. It simply unfolds, and the person putting in more effort wonders, did I do something wrong? But slow disconnection is rarely caused by a single mistake. It is caused by emotional distance growing unnoticed and unspoken. Chapter 3. When attention becomes a scarcity. Attention is the purest form of love, and one of the earliest casualties of slow disconnection. In Chapter 3, the shift becomes undeniable. The emotional presence that once felt abundant starts becoming scarce, not completely gone, just rationed. Responses become shorter, listening becomes selective, interest becomes conditional. This is when the heart truly begins to feel the distance. Simone Weil wrote, Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity, which means withholding attention is one of the quietest forms of detachment. During this stage, even small interactions begin to feel different. You might ask a question and receive a reply, but the reply lacks soul. You might share something meaningful, but it's received with minimal emotional engagement. The slow fade becomes visible, not because the connection breaks, but because the quality of attention collapses. This chapter marks the emotional midpoint of slow detachment, where the differences are no longer subtle, but not yet drastic enough to force a confrontation. It's the gray zone where relationships feel okay, but your heart knows they're not. And this silent shrinking of attention is one of the deepest heartbreaks a person can experience. Chapter 4. When emotion stops echoing back. In the fourth stage, something profound happens. Your emotions stop echoing back. You express care, but it isn't felt. You show worry, but it isn't valued. You express love, but it isn't returned in the same depth. This is the emotional void where slow disconnection becomes undeniable. The German philosopher Schopenhauer once wrote, "We will gradually lose our hold upon everything we love." He didn't mean love is doomed. He meant attachment is fragile. In this stage, you feel the emotional wall. You sense the shift in tone. You notice the absence of reciprocation. You feel the effort hitting emptiness. A person isn't cold. They're simply disconnected. They aren't cruel. They're emotionally elsewhere. Your emotions no longer create reactions. They create silence. The slow disconnection is now fully active, even if nothing has been spoken aloud. Chapter 5. When presence feels like distance. Presence used to feel comforting. Now it feels distant. In the fifth stage, the emotional gap is so wide that even being physically together feels lonely. This is the strange paradox of slow disconnection. You are not abandoned physically, but emotionally, you have already been left behind. The warmth that once felt natural turns into formality. Nietzsche said, "Invisible threads are the strongest ties." But in this stage, those invisible threads start to break, one by one. You feel the disconnect in their lack of emotional expression, their neutral reactions, their reduced effort, their fading enthusiasm. It's not that the person is gone, it's that their presence no longer carries meaning. You realize a painful truth. Being near someone who has slowly disconnected hurts more than being completely alone. Chapter 6. The silent, emotional goodbye. This stage is the silent, emotional goodbye. A farewell without words, arguments, or closure. It is the moment you realize. The connection has ended emotionally long before it ends physically. The slow goodbye is cruel, not because it is loud, but because it is quiet, Søren Kierkegaard wrote. The most painful state of being is remembering the future you dreamed of. In this moment, that future dissolves gently, not shattered, not destroyed, simply erased by absence. You recognize the goodbye in disengaged eyes, unenthusiastic responses, quiet avoidance, lack of emotional resonance, a different energy in the air. Chapter 7. Acceptance. The heart learns to let go. Acceptance is the final stage, not sudden, not painless, but liberating. You stop chasing clarity. You stop replaying the past. You stop blaming yourself. You simply understand. Slow disconnection is not your failure. It is the natural ending of a connection that no longer had mutual emotional investment. Buddha said, "You only lose what you cling to." In acceptance, the heart learns that letting go isn't losing. It is freeing yourself from a connection that was already gone. You realize the silence was goodbye. The distance was the closure. The slow fade was the truth. Acceptance doesn't erase the pain. It replaces confusion with clarity. It replaces chasing with breathing. It replaces longing with peace. You begin reconnecting with yourself. You begin rebuilding your emotional space. You begin healing from the inside. Slow disconnection ends with a quiet truth. You cannot lose someone who had already left.